Hey, I'm gonna do a short one here. This is um, some. Uh, this is about E.C. Waters, and I'm gonna read a little bit out of my book here. A note of interest: I went to Yellowstone Cemetery on my first visit to Yellowstone. That's my first boots on the ground. As I went to the cemetery, it fit the description in the thrill of the chase almost perfectly. The description. I also felt the cemetery had something to do with the search, but at that time I did not believe the treasure was in the cemetery or the special spot or the exact spot. Anyway, the cemetery is a military cemetery, but a forgotten cemetery. It is unkept. It is an unkept cemetery. The grass grows over the headstones like in the cemetery described in The Thrill of the Chase, and its chapter, My War for Me. I figured I was in the right area because of all the clues in the book fit Mammoth Hot Springs. Your destination is small, but its location is huge. You know, Mammoth means huge. But the and so many searchers are stomping on the ants while the elephants run by. These are all quotes of Forrest Fenn. Uh, anyway, and that stuff validated my thoughts. In fact, there are quite a few scrapbooks that talk about elephants or mammoth. There are a lot of elephant mammoth pictures in the books too. There is a picture with an elephant in the back of Too Far to Walk on page 97 of the same book. In the chapter Remnants of the Past, Forrest talks about mammoth. Plus, outside a museum, Forrest Fenn has one of the largest Clovis point collections in the world. Clovis points are the only prehistoric weapon that could kill a mammoth. Uh, anyway, the name of the spring, along with the Pacific landmarks, fit perfectly in my mind. I also saw several clues supporting Mammoth Hot Springs in the documentation. I then came across an article by E.C. Walters, the case for Yellowstone. I had some different ideas, and he had some different ideas, but together our ideas lined up perfectly. The post was written in 2016 as part of a blog. I had already come to these conclusions before I found the post, but it confirmed my thoughts. Hope Mr. Walters doesn't mind, but I have included the post below in full. I tried to obtain permission, but E.C. Walters is a pen name, and the blog was gone when I tried to contact Mr. Walters for permission. Anyway, I believe Mr. Waters, you know, he was a character in Yellowstone that ran a tour boat on Yellowstone Lake. He'd take them to an island, you know, that's even a hint right there. And E.C. Waters, I believe he's just a player in this game. So, you know, he's part of the act, part of Forrest Fenn's thing. Anyway, I'm going to have my secretary read the article that he put on Del Neitzel's site, and this secretary of mine can definitely read it a lot better than I can. I'm not the most proficient in that area. So if you'll bear with me and listen up, there's some great stuff here. So let's see if it'll work.
By E.C. Waters. Please keep in mind I have made a living in the IT space of text mining. Each of my search areas have started this way, using logic and probabilities to get me opposed word correlations. In the preface, F includes an Ernest Tubb lyric as a poem comparing life to a game of poker, potentially alluding to the Little Joker Spring. Little Joker Spring was named by Albert C. Peel. There is a Peel Island in Yellowstone Lake named after Albert Peel. F suggests we read the poem over and over and read the book looking for nuances. One such nuance has hit me. The word peel is another word for paddle. The word peel is a term used in bell ringing. F has a whole chapter on bronze bells he created, Dancing with the Millennium. The word peel is also used to describe laughter. F has said, paraphrasing, he envisions the finder of the chest to laugh out loud when they see the contents. F uses the word appeal at least 3 times throughout his book, including the history appealed to me after describing the bracelet he wants back. He describes the 22 turquoise disc beads set side by side in a row, like rowing. Appeal? When describing the bracelet he wants returned, he refers to winning it in 1965 from Baron Harvey, the son of Fred Harvey, the hotel magnate. Fred Harvey's business has evolved into, was acquired by, Xanterra, the company that manages various concessions and hotels in various locations, including inside Yellowstone and Mammoth Hot Springs. Byron's brother's name was Ford, potentially an allusion from F's Spanish teacher, Miss Ford. Scrapbook 142 has both the words Baron and Ford in the same post. F has said, seemingly in third person, an architect wrote the poem, In a Ride Through Wonderland by Georgina M. Singe, printed in 1892. She describes the terraces of Mammoth Hot Springs as no human architect ever designed such intricate fountains as these. The water trickles over the edges from one to another, blending them together with the effect of a frozen waterfall. Could this be where warm waters halt? In Dancing with the Millennium, F suggests I could have just as easily been watching a smithy in the 7th Cavalry shoe a horse. Those things are important, then I'm richer for it, potentially alluding to the first military residence of Mammoth Hot Springs at Fort Yellowstone. Halt is a word associated with marching. In Surviving Myself, F suggests listening to your hit parade, potentially alluding to the nearby parade ground. Liberty Cap is a nearby attraction as a now extinct hot spring cone. Could the term cap also imply stop or halt? Liberty caps were the hats worn by French revolutionaries, and F alludes to French military soldiers in My War for Me when coming across a grave marker with the epitaph including the words wink at a homely girl. This epitaph, specifically, would also seem to have a couple of word correlations to Mammoth Hot Springs. The words homely girl may allude to nearby Rustic Falls, where rustic is a synonym for homely. Please My Ghost may allude to nearby Phantom Lake. In Bessie and Me, F talks about his pet cow, named Bessie, potentially alluding to nearby Mount Everts. The mountain was named after the famous Truman Everts, who became lost in the wilderness for 37 days and miraculously survived. Truman Everts had a daughter who answered to the name Bessie. In Gypsy Magic, F suggests he could hear the steam engines, potentially alluding to Narrow Gauge Terrace Spring. In the same chapter, a photo of the Main Street Cowboys may allude to Main Springs Terrace. In Looking for Lewis and Clark, F describes his food rations, referencing Babe Ruth candy bars. The actual candy bar brand name is Baby Ruth. This possible hint potentially alludes to nearby Baby Terrace. In My War for Me, F includes a poem which describes gray-gowned patients weaving some cloth, potentially alluding to Minerva, the goddess of weaving. Minerva is also the goddess of wisdom, and her symbol is the owl. F posted a pic of a blaze in a tree, the letter F. Upon zooming in further, it is possible to make out the shape of an owl inside the FF. Also posted a vignette about a bird figurine he named Minerva. In My War for Me, F suggests putting his thumb over Philadelphia, potentially alluding to nearby Devil's Thumb. In Ode to Peggy Jean, F refers to his wife, saying no saint could match her faith, with the word saint potentially alluding to nearby Angel Terrace. In Ode to Peggy Jean, F includes a poem regarding a sparrow with an ancient secret. The sparrow is also the symbol of the goddess Aphrodite, potentially alluding to the nearby Aphrodite Terrace. In Tea with Olga, F describes Olga's bathtub, potentially alluding to nearby Bath Lake. If you've been wise and found the blaze potentially alludes to Hymen Terrace, where Hymen is the god of marriage and his symbol is the torch. F speaks about Skippy's washing machine fan blades, and the car engine fan after Cody ripped it apart, potentially alluding to Fan Spring. Fenn states in a New Mexico Department of Tourism video that if he were standing near the treasure, he'd smell wonderful smells of pine needles or piñon nuts or sagebrush. There has been a lot of debate related to piñon nuts because of where edible piñon nuts grow in the Rockies. Perhaps piñon nuts could have been an allusion to the nearby Piñon Terrace. F suggests in his preface that his church is in the mountains and along the river bottoms, potentially alluding to Cathedral Rock, or perhaps Pulpit Terrace. F suggests he traded for a painting of fairies dancing around a rock, potentially alluding to Rath Terrace Spring. F shows a photo of a bell with a mermaid, potentially alluding to nearby Naiad Spring. Dragonflies are also naiads, of which F seems compelled to form onto his bells and into his blog pics. The word on the bell with the mermaid is knowledge, a slight misspelling of knowledge, similar to how naiad is sometimes misspelled as nade. In important literature, F suggests reading Catcher in the Rye, potentially alluding to nearby Rye Pond. In No Place for Biddies, F suggests overhearing two ladies talking, potentially alluding to nearby Ladies Lake. In My Spanish Toy Factory, F suggests being the grand marble champion of the 7th grade, potentially alluding to nearby Marble Terrace. He also talks about flutterbies later in the book on things that are important. Yellowstone butterflies contain several species with the name marble. F suggests delivering papers as a job, potentially alluding to nearby Pepperpiker Spring. F suggests he always remembered the saying about stepping on a sidewalk crack, potentially alluding to nearby Sidewalk Spring. In July 2014, F sent a blog post to Dal titled The Dragon Bracelet. In this post he also describes a Canary diamond, potentially alluding to nearby Canary Spring. F suggests the loudmouth young man from the bookstore was on something and it probably wasn't Ovaltine, potentially alluding to travertine, the substance making Mammoth Hot Springs terraces. F names Orange Crush in his list of fizzy soda drinks, potentially alluding to Orange Spring Mound or Tangerine Spring. F names Julep Lime in his list of fizzy soda drinks, potentially alluding to the limestone of Mammoth Hot Springs. The use of the words fizz and fizzy may allude to nearby Fisher Terrace. Golden Gate Canyon seems an easy one. Sepulchre Loop Trail. Well, yeah, the obvious notwithstanding. It may also be interesting with loop trails that F quoted a T.S. Eliot poem, Little Jitting. The end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Loosely speaking, T.S. Eliot wrote the first draft or his fourth quartet, Little Jitting, while ill and recuperating in Shamley Green, Surrey. Claygood. Surrey is about a half-hour drive to the NE. Claygood may also be the origin of the name Claggett, potentially relating to a nearby feature name of Claggett Butte. Just about each, and possibly all, of F's Dalneitzel.com section on vignettes http://dalneitzel.com/category/vignettes/potentially relate to feature names found at Mammoth Hot Springs. My interpretation, palettes, equals Pallet Terrace. Well, here's Moses equals Cheops Mound. I'm not a scholar, so please don't ask me to prove the argument. Osiris, king of gods, equals Jupiter Terrace. Jupiter is the king of gods in Roman mythology. John Bullis equals Bullis is a butterfly. Marble butterflies are in Yellowstone, and hence the Marble Terrace. Green grass equals maybe Glen Springs or Highland Terrace. Again, just my interpretation, but here he references another location called Marble Canyon in AZ. The knife that growls equals this one eludes me, unless he's referring to approaching Poison Cave Reliquary equals the words he's using would imply a stronger correlation to Angel Spring 1, 2, and 3. But my money is on Pulpit Terrace. Ivory is the flesh of Minerva equals Minerva Terrace. Fiance, protector of the dead, equals Cleopatra Terrace. So, what do you think? Time to go annoy the Yellowstone HQ? They do hate us, don't they? Won't they be surprised if it's truly 200 feet from their front door? EC, Waters I built.
Anyway, that's pretty much his article. He writes another one that's just outstanding. And I don't know what. Anyway, there's actually a lot of other ways you can do it, like God. Anyway, I guess I'm lost for words on that one, but you get the hint. There's a lot of things that bring you to that area, and if you listen to it and look at these springs and all the things in this area, and not to mention the cemetery fits exactly like My War for Me, and maybe it's so blunt it's obvious. So let's go with that. Thanks.